Hi, my name's Lorrie Popow, and I just came back from a special event called Pysanky at the Gardens. Because these were live events, the audio and video aren't studio quality, but I know you will still enjoy them very much.
My name is Jordan Byrd, and I am going to demo today how to fill tiny eggs so you can turn them into jewelry. So I'm going to say it's a very long and tedious process. It's not for the faint of heart. You will lose about half of everything you do. They tend to explode. They crack. So I've got little eggs here. You can see all the disasters that have happened throughout the learning process of how to fill eggs. So you guys can take a gander at those. Yeah, be prepared. There is definitely a learning curve when it comes to this. So I use the UV epoxy. You could use a cheaper two-part epoxy as long as it dries completely hard. The only reason I use this is because it's what I use for everything, so I just don't bother buying separate epoxies. You'll also need a 10cc Lure Lock syringe and a 18 gauge blunt tip needle. Make sure it is blunt tip because you do not want to stab yourself and you don't want to go through the egg. So make sure it's a blunt tip. So a key part, the absolutely most crucial part about this is if you get epoxy on the outside of the egg, it is there forever. So you can see this one, I already have started filling these a little bit. You will have a little white blob on your egg throughout the whole process. So you want to be very careful not to get it on the outside of the egg, which means constantly changing your gloves if you get it on your gloves. Just be very aware of that. The other thing is the eggs heat up, the epoxy heats up as it cures. So if you fill it more than about a third at a time and you have to let it cure in between each third. If you don't do that, your egg is going to explode, which is what happened with all those little ones we're passing around. So you have to be very careful, only fill it about a third at a time. So what I do is I take my little syringe and I plug up the bottom of it with my pinky, and I'm just going to pour this straight in. And it is equal measurements, not by weight but by volume. And then since I got too much, I'm just going to let some drip out.
So that's one part of the two-part epoxy, and you're going to mix it in something?
Yeah, I'm going to they take surprisingly a large amount of epoxy to fill, so I'm going to go ahead and do 10 cc's of each part.
And like I had seen her do this before, and I forgot the part of where she poured it into the thing, and so I was trying to suck it up with the, I put it in and tried to, and it
is
will
way
not
too
suck
thick.
up
Yeah, you have to do it by pouring in the top. You can get little, they do sell little measuring cups for epoxy that have lines on them. I don't like doing it that way because I find that it's really hard to, when you're working with such a small amount of epoxy, it's really crucial to get exactly the right amount. So doing it this way, you can see exactly where it is, and since you're plunging it out, it is getting every last drop. Where if you use the measuring cups, you have to transfer one of those to the other, and it's really hard to scrape out.
Can you use the syringe over and over again?
You could if you took the time to fully wash them out. It is really hard to wash out. Okay. And I get my syringes on Amazon, and I order about 500 of them for I think $16. So I don't bother washing them out. And as Francoise and I found out, it is very important to mark your caps so you don't put the wrong cap on the wrong bottle. Francoise spent a night trying to pry my lids off for me. So I've got 10 cc's of part 1 in here. And I'm just going to squeeze it right out.
Where do you get those little cups you're squeezing it into?
These are just little condiment cups.
You buy them.
Grocery
Millions of
store, wherever.
You've got like a Gordon's or a Sam's or.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, sure.
Now,
Everybody
Do you always start with one part of the epoxy or the other?
part A is thicker, so I start with the thicker one. And there's really no rhyme or reason. That's just.
And that one's called B. Mm-hmm. So it's easy to remember.
That's the hardener.
According to the manufacturer, neither one is necessarily the hardener. They literally slap a name on it.
So, for us complete newbies and dummies, the two parts of the epoxy stay liquid until you mix them.
Yes.
And then when you mix them, magic happens.
Magic
Chemicals,
happens.
chemical reaction happens.
Exactly.
Takes a while. But this doesn't dry right, this epoxy doesn't dry right away.
Now you've
That's
got
mine.
about
I got
a
about 60 seconds.
15.
No, see, this is not a 5-minute epoxy.
You've got about a 15-minute work time on
I've only got
this.
about 60 seconds.
But for his purposes, that's better.
That's probably better.
And the guys at Epoxy, who I talk to on the phone quite regularly, are very, very friendly and very nice.
Do you have their number?
It's on their website.
Probably on the bottles too.
She's got it programmed into her phone, speed dial.
Did you want to see?
So if
Sure.
you can see, Epoxy is very, very easy to use. When you first mix it, it's very cloudy. And as soon as it's done being cloudy and it turns crystal clear, that's when I know it's ready. Most epoxies have like a time where you have to mix for 2 minutes and then rest for 3 and then mix for 2. This one, you just mix till it's clear and then it's ready to go.
Are you concerned at all about fumes?
Nope, it's a non-toxic epoxy. It's actually made out of soybeans. So it does have a faint odor, but it's very, very faint.
It's
and there's
just soybeans.
it's a completely non-toxic. I mean, you wouldn't want to drink it, but it's a certified.
I'll remember that.
Just in case. It is a certified green company, and
Or if you drink part A, don't drink part B. Or vice versa.
yes.
Isn't it Wasn't it Ansley developed an allergy to it and then?
No, she developed an allergy to a different kind of epoxy, and that's why
Not
she,
to this, that's why she
That's
uses
why
this
she had
now.
to switch to this. And
Yeah.
this is safe to use indoor. You don't have to, it's not the works. You don't have to worry about ventilation or,
As far as we know.
as far as we know.
Sojo uses this too.
Sojo uses this
This
as
comes
well.
out of Canada.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's a little pricey, but it's worth it.
Yeah, it really is. This size, I think, is about $50.
Each
No, together.
together.
Oh, that's not bad.
That's
That's a
not
lot of
bad.
epoxy. And yeah, it lasts a lot.
It lasts a really long time. I think I got that right after October last year, right after I did my other demo. I think is when I restocked up. And I do a lot of jewelry throughout the year, and I coat all of my
You
whole
coat all
eggs
your
in it.
eggs with it even.
Yeah, so it goes a far way. So you can see it's bubbly, but it is now turned very clear.
You fill your larger eggs with that too?
I don't fill them, I coat the outside.
Oh. With the gloved hand?
Yeah.
Yes. This is very, very, very hard to remove from your skin. It's not toxic, so it's not going to hurt you, but it's really...
Speaking from experience.
Speaking from experience, it is also not the easiest to get out of your hair. Speaking from experience.
Does it drip run on the egg? You have to be really careful.
No, it's actually very, very easy to use.
And it makes them a lot tougher than...
Yeah, if someone has an egg ready to do, I can show you how to.
I
If
have
anyone.
an egg ready to do.
Okay, yeah. If
Is
you.
that the same syringe?
Yes. So these are just 18 gauge blunt tip needles, and they stick. You have to make sure they're the lure locks, and they stick right on the ends. So you just plug your bottom.
Okay, that's the first thing I would screw up.
Just pour it right in.
Plugging the button.
Pouring. No, pouring it in.
We'll never be plugging the bottom.
And then you want to flip it upside down and you want to plug the tip so you don't get a bunch running out the top. You want to wait till the bottom fills up.
This sounds like all of this came from experience too.
I've got about 50 or 60 of those little mess ups at home. Yes. And we'll just need a little piece of foam to put that in, Abby. So, I have kind of learned from experience how much each egg takes. The dove or pigeon size, which is the slightly bigger one, I do about 1 full cc at a time. Finch eggs do about maybe a little less than half a cc at a time, and you just want to fill them in thirds. So these, I've already done the first 2 sets, and then I'm going to do the third. So you just stick it in, and you just plunge it down. And it is very hard to push down, and it takes a very long time. And this is where you just have to be patient and go through and do them one by one.
And you get cramps in your fingers.
And you get cramps in your fingers.
I would have given up.
Okay, when you pull that syringe out, how do you keep?
I usually will get a little bit around the end, but that's also where you'll put like a bead cap or a finding or whatnot.
And it also helps protect the hole in a sense because it's vulnerable there.
Exactly.
And what if you would wax the shell first before you start filling them?
They're too fragile.
Is it?
Very fragile.
They're very,
Your
very
Kiska tip
fragile.
goes right through the shell.
Just with a brush,
Oh, just with a brush.
and then remove the wax later on.
If it doesn't matter if it's covered with a bead cap,
Yeah, then
yeah.
So it's hard to push that syringe down, and you're doing it very slowly.
Well, I am pushing it as hard as I can. You can kind of see it this is as hard as I can push it. So, you can't push it too hard. And then if you get a little too much of a bubble, because you want it to be pretty flush, you just pull back up a little bit until it's...
Would a larger bore needle make a difference?
This is where you start to pull your own hair out. If you use a larger gauge needle, it runs too fast, and when you pull your needle out, it just pools all over the top of your egg, just like this one did. So.
what do you do when that happens? It pools over the top.
You're done.
You're done.
done.
Yep.
It goes into
gone.
that box
It
over
goes
there.
into that box over there.
You
Yeah.
incorporated
Now-
it into your design?
Now-
You've already done 2 layers in
I've
those.
already done 2
That's
layers
called
in
Plan
these.
C.
She did a layer on Saturday and a layer on Sunday.
Another thing you have to be very careful about is air bubbles. You have to make sure that your needle is all the way down into it and you slowly pull up, because if you get an air bubble trapped inside there, it has nowhere to go, and what ends up happening is it'll crack on the outside. So,
Who's your source for the eggs? You use
I
Brackenridge?
use Jody, and Jody is very, very sweet. She makes my hole slightly larger for me, but she's starting to not do that anymore. She's having issues with her wrists, and that's when you just have to use the bead reamer, because the holes as they come are too small to fit the blunt tip in. So you do have to.
How much time do you allow between the thirds?
You're good about after 6 hours. The Epoxy has about a 6-hour cure time where it's dry to the touch, and then after 12 hours it's fully hardened.
So you use a reamer, that's the first problem that I would have, because I would crack around the hole.
They're very, very easy to crack around the hole. Yeah.
For the new people here, these you can buy at any basic store and they just help enlarge the holes just a little bit.
So, do we have a piece of foam?
It's right.
Oh, perfect. So, to coat my whole eggs in, it's very, very easy. You just take your gloved hands and I take about that much on the egg and I roll it around. And this is self-leveling and it de-bubbleizes itself.
That's a good word.
Thank you. Naturally as well. And you just want a really thin layer. If it fully cures and you've missed a spot where you need more, you want a thicker layer, you just go back and do a second coat after it's dried. But I find that typically my eggs over there, they have about one layer and it's a very thin layer. And you just want the hole pointing up and you want to bring as much of it down to the bottom as you can so that when you put it on your skewer, as it self-levelizes, it'll drip down a little bit. And they're very easy. If you get a drip at the bottom here, you can just sand it off.
Or you can touch it with a paper towel very lightly.
Yeah.
I
Suck it
typically
out.
don't do that just because it's not worth my time. I don't usually have problems with it sticking to the skewer as long as you don't use too much.
Yeah, I'm not talking about sticking it, I'm talking about a drip, a dripping drip.
Yeah, you can feather it
You
with
can
a
just,
paper
you
towel.
can just touch it with the corner of a paper towel.
Yeah,
It's fine.
but it
what I
takes
do, too.
so long to get that drip, and I usually don't. I usually just do them and walk away.
When you sand it, does that make the surface then kind of opaque, or does it still stay crystal
It does,
clear?
but it's at the bottom, and I cover mine with bead caps, so you never
Even
see
on
it.
your big eggs?
You cover them with which caps?
Little bead caps.
Do you?
Mm-hmm.
Every time?
Not every time. It kind of did like
It's covering.
all of my eggs in the gallery are covered with bead caps because that's what the gallery wanted. But it just kind of depends on the egg
And what's
what
your
I feel
source
like.
for the bead caps?
Joann's.
I put 2 bead caps in everybody's gift bag, so you have a couple to work
Yeah,
with.
we
Bead
got
caps
a
for
few
sale
different-
over there.
Yeah, we got a few different kinds this year.
I think you've just
Amazon,
changed my
great
mind
place.
about a finish.
I know.
Because,
This is
be-
the best.
Adding the
because this is
sturdiness.
tougher.
It is tougher.
Order.
The only thing is you do have to mix it, so.
Jordan, you don't have any trouble with the epoxy affecting your dyes?
No.
Why do I?
What kind of epoxy are you using? I think that's probably the issue.
yes.
I have tried 2 other epoxies, not on whole eggs like this, but just on jewelry. And I have forever sworn off them because if you read the fine print on almost every single epoxy that you would get at Joann's or Hobby Lobby, even the ones that are made for jewelry, in the fine print it says not to be worn against skin. They are highly, highly toxic.
No, I'm talking about bleeding the dye.
No, yes. So that's why I have no experience with other epoxies. I've never done them on whole eggs
Acrylic
because
or water-based is what you have to look for.
I don't suppose you have it with you.
Yeah, I had them when I was doing the scratch eggs. I was talking about
Yeah.
how
Well, if it's a water-based one, that's gonna run your dyes.
Well, the epoxy I use will make some dyes run, and I just do a light spray of varnish,
yeah.
Yeah.
matte varnish.
And it didn't do it to all of them, it
Is
did
it
it to
Liquitex?
certain colors.
I've never had epoxy run my dyes.
I think it's a water base. I think Liquitex is a water base.
It doesn't seem to be water-based.
Mine wasn't water-based.
Yeah.
So, and
I
what
do.
brand-
It may be the dye.
It was
Well,
always the
I've-
reddish brown
Yeah,
cinnamon.
red runs.
It separated the brown from the red. I mean, you could see the red on the
Because I
egg.
use pretty much all the brands of dye, and I've never had a problem. I do use lighter fluid to clean off my eggs, every single egg, and make sure I get all the wax residue off, and I really give it a good rub. So maybe, possibly, you still have some dye residue that's...
One of the things it did is on the scratch eggs, they have a real sharp outline where I scratched it,
Yeah.
and the epoxy bled that, and it's lost its definition.
Yeah, I saw that.
That's
I
what I'm
wonder
talking
if
about.
maybe...
I'm gonna spray it first and then do the
Yeah.
epoxy.
Why don't you do a
I just wondered why it didn't for you, and I guess it's because of the brand.
I
Do you
think it's
have any that are
probably.
undone right now? Try this
bring 'em
epoxy
over.
at it.
Yeah.
Bring one over.
Bring one over, Janelle.
And try this one.
Bring one over and try this epoxy.
Well, I mean, they've already been done. It's not
Oh,
gonna change it. It's
Yeah,
not gonna
I
change
would
it.
think maybe it's just the brand then,
Okay.
because I do etched. I don't do scratch eggs, but I've
I've
done
bought 'em
etched
at-
eggs with
I've done
color
the one
that.
from Hobby Lobby, I've done the one from Michael's, and I've done one from Home Depot.
So you're filling?
I hope this video has helped you. Please subscribe to my channel to get updates of new videos. Visit my website at lorriepopow.com. Hugs!